The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Hi folks, and welcome to Aging Horizons. Today we'll be talking about fraud. More particularly, we'll be talking about Medicare fraud. It's happening throughout the nation. It's happening right here in Montana too. So how do we discover it? Well, we have a special program that's available statewide to all our seniors, and you are the first line of defense in discovering fraud. We'll talk about that and so much more. Stay tuned.
Can you say ombudsman?
Ombudsman. Benson?
Uma Doodlesman? Fortunately, you don't have to say it right to get the help of a long-term care ombudsman. If you or a loved one reside in assisted living or long-term care, an ombudsman can help resolve any issue. And these services are completely free and confidential. Now, why don't you try that again?
Ombudsman.
Did you just text me?
I didn't want to disturb you if you were sleeping.
Sleeping? I'm sitting right next to you, silly.
There you are. Hey, I found a couple of Medicare helping programs online that I think we ought to look into.
It says if we qualify, we can get help paying for our prescription drugs. Oh, and there's a program that can help pay our Part B premium.
To learn more about extra help and Medicare savings programs, call your local SHIP counselor today.
Maybe I better text him.
Here in Montana, we love our outdoor activities. Unfortunately, few of them are risk-free. Indeed, Montana is second in the nation per capita in head injuries that can destroy the lives of people we love. That's why you should insist your family always wear protective helmets. But you can do even more. When you fill out your vehicle registration this year, circle the Y and donate $1 to support traumatic brain injury prevention and education. Now that's using the old noggin.
You've probably seen some big-name celebrities on your TV lately talking about all the Medicare benefits you're missing out on. But the insurance companies who are paying for these ads may be pushing benefits not available in Montana. Fortunately, help is available from a friendly state health insurance assistance program counselor who can help you sort it all out. It's free, and we screen everyone for eligibility regardless of your zip code. It's Montanans helping Montanans. Call today.
Hi folks, and welcome to Aging Horizons. We have another wonderful show today. We're talking about Medicare, particularly Medicare fraud. This show is brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services Senior and Long-Term Care Division, and I'm your host, Brian Lamore. Joining us remotely is Renee Labrie-Shanks. You're the statewide director of the State Medicare Patrol. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Brian. It's been a while since I've seen you. It's great being on here again.
Well, it's great having you back. Well, let's start at the top. We're State Medicare Patrol, or SMP program. It's been around for quite a while. For our viewers who are tuning in and they're not really sure what that is, please define it for us.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, the Senior Medicare Patrol Program, or SMP, is what we refer to it across the nation. It is a national program, and it was originally created to be the boots on the ground. So people don't have to call 1-800-Medicare, and they can get unbiased attention in their local communities. So SMP was created because Senator Harkin in 1997, they started a demonstration grant, and it was so successful they took it nationwide in 99, and we've been running it ever since here. Basically, it's to stop Medicare fraud, plain and simple.
Yeah. So what's the nuts and bolts of that? First, you're talking about Medicare fraud. That would be a provider that is doing the fraud, most likely. I imagine individuals could do it too, but we're probably focused on the provider. How does an individual possibly identify fraud, and how do they become involved in its being exposed?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. It's almost jumping to the end, because the number one thing to stop Medicare fraud is to read the Medicare statements, whether it's a Medicare summary notice from traditional Medicare or a Medicare Advantage explanation of benefits, or EOB, because anything that's billed in somebody's name will show up there. And a fraudulent provider, or anybody, because fraud can happen on any piece and part, manufacturer, the provider, the beneficiary, so many different spots. it'll all show up there, and they know that the person's going to complain, right? If you got a bill in the mail for even $9 that you didn't think you owed, you'd probably question it. You wouldn't pay it. Well, they know that. So they're not billing the people, they're billing Medicare, and they're stealing directly from Medicare.
And I know a little while ago they changed all our Medicare numbers from, I believe it was our Social Security number, to a number that I can't remember. I imagine that's an important component of protecting from fraud.
Yes, definitely. And I think people need to know that people can still steal from Medicare with it. Now it means our identity can't be stolen. You know, that it's not attached to our Social Security number, so somebody can't use that to buy a boat or steal all your money. You know, that we're scared of all of the things that can happen out there now with the technology and the electronic transfer of funds and all of that. But that can happen to Medicare still with that number. So by design, it's great that people can't really remember it, because a thing that the fraudsters do is they catch us off guard. Like, we could be in the middle of purchasing something from a provider, and we get that call out of the blue, and we kind of try and connect dots and think that maybe it's something to do with that. And if we had that Medicare number memorized like we used to, we just might rattle it off before we think twice. And now it makes you slow down. I mean, that's not why it's something that we can't remember, but that's a great benefit of that. And so that number can still be used like a credit card to steal from Medicare if it gets in the wrong hands.
So it's very important that when you give that number out, you know it's a Medicare provider that you are receiving services from, and not a random phone call that you did not initiate, right?
Exactly. We lose over $70 billion to Medicare fraud annually. It's unbelievable. So instead of chasing down the guys, the bad guys, after they steal from us, we need to stop them from stealing in the first place. And that's the role of SMP, and that's the role of every beneficiary who can stop and read their statements. The Office of Inspector General, they investigate the fraud, and the Department of Justice prosecutes it. We're here to educate people to help stop it from in the first place. We'll also research complaints and help resolve billing issues, but we want to stop it, because if we think about it, we're spending money investigating, we're spending money prosecuting, and we're certainly spending money incarcerating after the fact. Plus, that money is not sitting in a bank account waiting to be found. So we're trying to recoup what we can. So when we lose $1.2 million to Medicare fraud, we're spending money to get it back. It's just better to keep it in the first place so people can stop it when it's $100 or $500. The first time that somebody bills for something in their name that they didn't provide.
Okay, now sometimes people don't recognize what's on a bill, and it may be appropriate, but that's why we have the SMP system here. We'll have a number on the screen here. People can call that. And what kind of system do we have to help address individuals' questions about their bills?
People just need to call their local area agency on aging in Montana, and they'll connect you with the SMP office for their county. Or they can call the 1-800-551-3191, and that should connect them with their closest office on aging. And if it's not in that office will direct them to where it is. And they just need to make that phone call.
And I think it's important to note that, we're not sharing your information with anybody anywhere. Everything's strictly confidential, isn't it?
It's confidential, it's unbiased, it's free, and it's individual. It's not this anonymous entity out there. These are people in your local communities that want to keep you safe.
And they may need some follow-up information, but they're there to help you. Now, we're quickly drawn to a close on our first segment, but let's kind of recap. We have the state Medicare Patrol in Montana. It's nationwide. It's a federal program that is administered by our area agencies on aging, which are local. You possibly might know a person that is working there in our small little communities here. But everything is strictly confidential. If you have a question about a Medicare billing, if you suspect fraud, or even if you're unaware, they are there to help you with that billing statement. And they're more than willing to help. What's important is to make that first call, because that's the first step in resolving fraud. Now, we've got a lot more info. Stay tuned.
Elder abuse is a growing problem, and it's happening right here in our Montana communities. at least 1 in 10 older adults are victims of physical or emotional abuse, financial exploitation, or neglect. To get help or report elder abuse, call your local area agency on aging or Adult Protective Services at 1-844-277-9300.
Every 65 seconds, someone is affected with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Many become isolated at a time when help is most needed. If you or someone you love is affected, help is available, both for people with memory loss and their caregivers. Memory loss can feel frightening, but you are not alone. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
You mean I can get help paying my prescription drug premiums?
Let me get this straight. I could be eligible for help with my family's prescription premiums even though I own my own home?
And our assets won't be counted.
If you're a Montana resident enrolled in the Medicare prescription drug program, you could be eligible for help paying your premiums. Call or visit the Big Sky RX website today to find out, even if you think you're over income.
What do you know about that? I'm eligible.
When I found out it was diabetes, my first thought was, Barb, you need help. You have to take control of this. There is help. My doctor gave me a phone number. I called and signed up with a diabetes educator. There is help. I have to put blinders on when I walk past the bakery counter. I can feel my blood sugar go up. You succeed a little at a time. If you have diabetes, help is available. You do not have to do it alone.
Ask your doctor about diabetes education or visit montana211.org.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. I'm your host, Brian Lamore, and we're continuing our discussion about Medicare fraud. It's a national issue, and it's a Montana issue. And it's such an issue that we have some federal programs that are delivered throughout the state of Montana to help address the fraud issue. But you're the number one person to spot the possibility of fraud. Rejoining us is the state SMP coordinator or director, Renee Labrie-Shanks. And Renee, how does this happen in the first place? I mean, there's a lot of smart people out there trying to defraud people. I imagine they're quite, they've got a lot of expertise in this, but how does fraud happen and how do they, I guess, choose their victims? I'll call them.
Right. They're doing a shot across the water, basically. Like they're targeting seniors, but they're not targeting individuals. They're targeting everyone, and they know human nature. So an important fact that everyone needs to know is that Medicare processes about 4.5 million claims a day. So they don't know what service you had, what doctor you saw. They don't know anything about you. They just know if the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, and everything looks good on there, and they will process that. So that's where if you got the call from the unsolicited, durable medical equipment provider or outfit or genetic test kit or COVID test kit, if you got a phone call trying to sell you something through Medicare saying, don't worry about it, it's covered by Medicare, we bill Medicare, blah, blah, blah. Medicare is not marketing their services. So if you get those phone calls right away, red flag goes up. Stop the call. You should get everything ordered through your provider, and you can buy it from anywhere you want once you've got the order through your doctor, but you don't want to take a phone call from New Jersey or Florida selling you durable medical equipment. And even if you take that call and say no, if you get something in the mail or if you see something on that Medicare summary notice, you need to make the phone call to SMP so we can get that money back to Medicare and recover it.
Mm-hmm. And so if you get a bill, go over it and take a look at it. Now, some of that's pretty confusing, and a person might think, that didn't happen. But the purpose of our SMP people and the 800 number is for you to call them, and they can help you either explain it or look into it to further define what's happening, right?
Exactly. I think we know a lot of people don't actually read the statements. We're finding that out, and that's how these fraudsters can get away with $9 million before they're caught or grow a huge pattern of abuse. It takes one person to call and say, I don't recognize this on my bill. And it might seem confusing, especially if somebody's had a lot of services going through, like maybe they had a major surgery or something. They need to look for the main things, like, do they recognize the provider? Do they recognize the service, the dates? Sometimes I want to say fraud happens when somebody goes to a provider, and this hasn't happened in Montana, but we're ripe for the picking here. But a provider in Kansas City billed every day but Christmas for a 3-year period, and there was one fellow he saw one time. So if that man had read his statement and saw that doctor billed him, everything's fine. And then the next 3 months later, he's getting a bill again from him through Medicare. That should have raised red flags. He could have made the phone call and stopped it. But as it was, that man got out $102,000 from Medicare just for that individual because he did not read a single statement that came in the mail. So we just need to remember Medicare's processing claims because they're just making sure everything's done correctly. And then you're the one who can look at it and say, hey, this isn't right, and stop it.
I remember in the past in Florida, there was a big process of false Medicare claims, and there were millions and millions and millions of dollars. And usually with a fraud scheme like this, it goes into a bank account and then disappears, and it's hard to retrieve it.
Yeah, exactly. In 2019, there were several Montana Medicare beneficiaries that contacted us because they reported receiving unordered braces in the mail. You know, it starts with a innocuous, maybe back brace. I mean, how many of us have had a bad back in our life at some point? So maybe it's in your doctor's notes. You know, they've talked to you about it. So this outfit from Florida faxes them an order, and the doctor just assumes, well, that's where you want to get it from, and signs off on it. Or worse, that outfit in Florida has providers on their roll already that are involved in the fraud. In fact, that's what happened in 2019. There were 2 Montana nurse practitioners who were on all of those reported fraud cases. We turned them into the OIG. They were sentenced for conspiring to defraud Medicare of millions of dollars. And they both worked with, I'm going to say, certain companies, and they received money. They basically sat in their living room and signed orders all day. You know, they signed them, and the orders were prepared by telemarketers who had no medical training or certification. And combined, they signed over 14,000 of these orders, resulted in over $9 million being paid for by Medicare. So they were caught, but, you know, getting $9 million back, that's not a small feat.
Oh, no, it isn't, but the temptation to spend it is great, I imagine. But what's important here is your Medicare number. I imagine that is the key to tying your services all together with your provider and these false providers.
Yes, and any of our individual information, if you get a call from someone saying, you know, this is Medicare, or we work for Medicare, or whatever, and we just want to confirm your information, that's their sly way of getting your information. You know, they already have some of your information, but they're missing pieces. So if they say, I want to confirm your information, and you say, no, this is it, you just gave them your information. And this is happening more and more in Montana with the unsolicited phone calls. This spring, there was a rash of unsolicited COVID test kits, and that actually started last fall, but it wasn't really pounced upon until this spring. Medicare stopped covering, as of May 11th, those home COVID test kits, but the fraudsters knew this, so they were just billing Medicare for them, and Medicare was paying if they were, you know, under their benefits, and people were receiving these home kits they didn't order. So if anybody out there has been a part of that unknowingly, give us a call because we can still help sort that out. In fact, I bet most of their cases, they'll find adjusted MSNs down the road because other people have turned in the providers and they're investigating them right now.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we've quickly drawn to a close on this second segment. We have another one to go, but it's so important. Remember, keep your number safe, your Medicare number, and if somebody wants it, you call the provider. Don't let them call you. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay tuned.
Respite care is amazing. If you are capable of doing it, the rewards are beyond measure.
Stephanie Young, respite care provider, on the unexpected benefits of helping people in need.
Being a respite care provider is an amazing experience. It's something that what you give, you get back 100-fold. You receive so much more than you could ever imagine.
To find out how to change lives, including your own, go to respite.mt.gov.
I think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
This is Bill. He just received his new Medicare card and is following some simple rules to protect himself from fraud. He knows to never give out his Medicare, Social Security, or bank number over the phone. And this is Nancy. She knows that to detect any problems, she always reads her Medicare summary notice or Medicare Advantage EOB to make sure the billing is correct. Both Bill and Nancy know that anything suspicious can be reported to Montana SMP at 1-800-551-3191.
I've been shooting since I was young. It's something I've always enjoyed. I wasn't feeling like myself, and my friend noticed. He asked if he could hold onto my guns temporarily. At first, I was a little shocked, but then I agreed. I think he saved my life that day.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. I'm your host, Brian Lamore, and continuing our discussion about Medicare fraud. And recently, I don't know if you noted it in the press, but a major Medicare provider was hacked and individuals' Medicare numbers were stolen. And most likely, they were shared or sold. Now, Renee, can you tell us more about this and how our Medicare recipients need to be alert for possible fraud?
Sure. It was another data breach, and it was in May. A Medicare contractor, Maximus, they believe about 8 to 11 million people's protected health information were exposed. It doesn't necessarily mean anything happened to it, just that they found that it was exposed and they fixed it. But they, if they believe that breach may have affected you, you're going to receive a letter from them, and it's going to offer you 2 free years of credit monitoring from Experian. So take advantage of that. And then, like everything else with Medicare fraud, keep reading those statements, because if somebody has that number and enough of your data points, they can bill Medicare for things they know Medicare will cover. You need to just stop that. And there are a few other things I could talk about regarding changes with Medicare, if you'd like.
Sure.
So, the Inflation Reduction Act, this happened last year late in the game. So if people didn't know that Medicare will now cover insulin. Any insulin that a Medicare drug plan covers, it's going to be capped at $35, even if people haven't met their annual Part D deductible. But they need to remember not every plan covers every type of insulin. So that doesn't mean the plan they're on, it'll cap out at $35. They need to get on the plan that fits them best. And that brings me to the importance of looking at their Part D plan or Medicare Advantage plan during the annual enrollment period, which is coming up October 7th to December 15th. So this is where people can make changes to their plans and make sure they're in the best plan for them. And then lastly, just reminding people that now all vaccines recommended by the CDC are free to beneficiaries through the Part D plan. So if people have been holding off on getting their shingles vaccine, now is the time to get it.
Mm-hmm. So now let's kind of get back to our Medicare statements that an individual receives. Sometimes they're pretty confusing. What tips can you give our viewers about when they open up that statement or they get it digitally? What do they want to look for? Maybe what's a red flag that might pop up that says, this isn't appropriate?
That's a good question, because what's going to be inappropriate is anything that they don't recognize, really, because we want people to question things. It could be a radiologist they didn't see, somebody reading labs or something. They're not going to recognize every provider, but they should know the general services that they received, and that will cue them. So if something's a wrong date, like they did not get a service on that date, or definitely a provider they don't recognize would be a cue. And if people keep track of things, we actually have healthcare trackers that are available at all of the offices that people can use. Anything, a calendar, something where they're writing down just the dates of service and who they saw. And that way, 3 months from now, if they get their statement, they'll be able to remember, that was the date I had it or not. Sometimes there's mistakes that happen, and we need to stop those too, right? I mean, those cost the person money often more than Medicare, depending on deductibles and all of that kind of stuff. So if I could just tell people the top thing to do, read your Medicare summary notice. And then there's a couple other things that they should do just to stop fraud from happening in the first place. And one is to stop picking up the phone if you don't know who it is. You want to just let it go to voicemail. If it's important, they'll leave a message. If they pick up, it's going to mark them as a live line. And so when you're a live line, they know you're a person. They're going to keep you on rotation. And even worse, they're going to sell your number to someone else who will put you on their rotation. So you'll just keep getting more calls. If you're expecting an important call, hopefully you've got most people in your contacts. But if not, they're going to leave a message. So you can just listen to the messages because people can spoof numbers to make it look like it's a Montana number when it's not. Just picking up because it looks like, oh, it's from Anaconda, it must be okay. No, it's probably not okay. They use technology now. It's so easy to make it look like they're calling from somewhere they're not. So that's the number 2 thing. And then lastly, I should say, is to protect that Medicare number. It's no longer your Social Security number, but it's still that blank check. So if you find yourself in a call where someone is asking to confirm your Medicare number or Social Security or bank account or birth date, anything private, individual, protected information, unless you called them and you know who you're talking to, that's a red flag to hang up, because Medicare, your bank, no one's going to ask you for that information over the phone by calling you. You're going to have to call them in order to, like you call SHIP for help with enrolling in Medicare, they're going to need your Medicare number, but you know who you're talking to. So that's another deal.
Great. So for our viewers, we only have about a minute left or so. They call the 800 number here. What happens once they call? What's the steps that you take to assist them?
Depending on what their issue is or what they're calling us about, we will take down their information, and an SMP person, a volunteer coordinator in their area, will take the steps to resolve whatever the issue is, or maybe just give them the information if that's what they're calling about, or provide them with some materials like the healthcare tracker I mentioned or something. But if we take on a case and it looks like it might be fraud, once we've collected all of the documentation and the story and put it all together, we turn that over directly to the Office of Inspector General, and they're the ones that investigate the big fraud cases. And we've got many cases in right now with them as part of those durable medical equipment and COVID test kit fraud.
Well, that's great, Renee. Well, Renee, I'd like to thank you for coming in or being available to do the show today. We really appreciate it. And for our viewers, fraud is pretty rampant throughout the United States. We see about it every day. And Medicare is a big payer of that. But you're the first line of defense. So be aware. Thank you for joining us.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.